All right. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Integrate Online, presented by West Virginia University Reed College of Media, which offers renowned online master's degrees programs in marketing communications. Thank you for joining us. Today, we'll be discussing building your business, the path to self-employment, with Chrissy Bodnovich and Jess F. Williams. Please be sure to keep your mics muted for the session and send questions in the chat. All right, so let's get started. Let's learn a little bit more about our two incredible panelists today. Let's start with you, Joseph. Can you tell us a little bit more about you? Where are you from? When did you go through the IMC program?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. It is so great to be here. It is exciting to see all the names and faces pop up on the Zoom. So we have a full house, and I'm excited to engage in this conversation. Again, my name is Joseph Williams. I'm founder and owner of Spectacular Vernacular, which is a communications, marketing, and storytelling company based in Jacksonville, Florida. I went through the WVU IMC program. I began in early 2020, right before the onset of the pandemic, and it was a 2-year experience for me that culminated in my graduation in spring 2020. Shortly after that, I forged ahead to launch Spectacular Vernacular, which had a soft launch this past April, and we have been fully operational since August of this year, and things have been going incredibly well so far.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Chrissy, what about you? Where are you from? When did you participate in the IMC program?
Yeah, so I'm Chrissy Bodnovich. I am a social media marketing consultant. I am from Fairmont, West Virginia, and I currently live in Preston County, West Virginia. So I'm about 30 minutes from Morgantown, if you're not familiar with the area. And I graduated from the IMC program in 2015. So it's been a while for me.
Excellent. All right. So both of you have a business. So could you, Chrissy, maybe let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your business. How did that start? Where are you now?
Sure. So I left my full-time job back in January of 2020, right before the pandemic hit. So it wasn't great timing for me. I had planned on taking the marketing agency route, but kind of had to make some shifts here and there and pivot. And based on the needs of some of the clients that I had, I shifted more into a consultant role. So right now I focus on marketing strategy for my clients, but I also do some social media management, content creation, and social advertising. I consult with a couple of different agencies as well, and they're based in Chicago and Nashville. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything at this point, just based on the needs of my clients.
Yeah, great. I love that. Jesseph, tell us about your business, how you get started. We're very excited. I know you got a lot of energy behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. As I mentioned, Spectacular Vernacular has been fully launched since August of this year, so a couple of months now. And we focus on storytelling to strategically leverage storytelling to help individuals and organizations reach their target audiences. And for me, this company is really symbolic of my professional and academic background. My background is in newspaper journalism. That's what I did professionally in South Carolina before moving to Jacksonville, Florida in 2013, when I shifted over to corporate marketing and public relations. So really, again, with Spectacular Vernacular, we are taking storytelling to really find, because everyone has a story. When it comes to reaching target audiences, people like to hear about facts and stats and how well your company is doing, but it's really that human interest element that exists. And what our company does is we really work with you to unearth that element that is really unique to yourself and leverage that in a strategic way that will resonate with your target audience.
So Joseph, as you're talking about this, it's very clear you're very passionate about your business. And we all know, if you've ever started a business before, it takes a lot of passion, right, to get it up and off the ground. Can you talk to us a little bit about how your passion aligns with your business and how you keep that and motivate yourself to continue to grow?
Yes. passion is imperative. I tell people all the time that you have to figure out what it is you're passionate about. What is it that moves you, that energizes you, and that drives you? Because that is going to be what propels you to ultimately succeed as an entrepreneur. Yes, we all want to make money, and you can chase the money. That's cool. But after a while, when during those long days and long nights or tough stretches, that singular pursuit of the money is not what's going to keep you engaged. And I honestly believe that when you align with your passion, I believe your potential clientele can see. I believe your clients themselves can see, and I believe that it manifests in the quality of your work when you're truly doing something that you're passionate about. And I think you have to take your passion and you have to survey the market and figure out where the need is. What is it that the people want? And whatever your entity is, its existence lies in between those two spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. That's big thing in entrepreneurship, right? We find a hole, we find a problem, we try and solve it. And then if it lines with your passion, even greater. Christy, do you have any thoughts on passion around starting a business?
Yeah, I mean, going from what I worked in social media back before starting my own business, but just being passionate about what I'm doing now makes it feel like I'm not working. I wake up every day and I don't get the Sunday scaries anymore. I look forward to what I'm doing, and I know that I'm helping people grow their businesses as well. And so that's been my driving force.
Yeah. Now I know I just took you on the high of the passion. We're excited. We're starting. We're rocking it. But in reality, we all know starting a business is not always easy. It's like riding a roller coaster, right? We've got highs, we've got lows. Often there's barriers to entry, and some of those are tangible barriers and some of them aren't. Jesseph, could you talk to us a little bit about some of those barriers and how you've been able to navigate when challenges come along?
Yeah, well, obviously, dollar cash is king, so money is naturally a barrier, and that's one of many reasons why it takes time to launch a business. I began laying the foundation for Spectacular Vernacular back in 2021, spring of 2021. So this has been a 2-year plus adventure for me, and it was a long game because I knew things would not happen overnight. So, and to be transparent, I would say make sure you have great credit, because you want to be able to leverage that will allow you to invest in the different type of resources. And, whether it comes to, videography or your website, there's just so many expenses that are incurred when it comes to launching your business. So the financial barrier is one. And then also I would say, there's a human resource barrier as well when it comes to making sure you're partnering with the right people. And for me, I had a very specific aesthetic that I had in mind as I was dreaming up Spectacular Vernacular. And when I wrote my business plan, I was on the hunt for those creatives that I could partner with who would really help me actualize this rich aesthetic that I imagined. And there were folks that I may have consulted with who ultimately did not pan out to be the ones that I had to partner with. And sometimes that can be frustrating, because you go down this road, and whether it's a graphic designer or whether it's a videographer or photographer, sometimes schedules don't match up. Sometimes creative vision don't match up. Sometimes work ethic doesn't match up, so it's a journey to make sure you find those folks who truly align with what you're trying to manifest, and that takes time. So I would say money, human resources, and time are 3 of the chief barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. Christy, do you have any thoughts around that? I mean, I think that we all see money as one of those major barriers. And as you mentioned, partnering with those right folks, is there anything else that you've experienced?
Yeah, so for me, the tangible barriers weren't really a major part for me. I had a computer and I had Wi-Fi, and honestly, that's all I needed to get started. For me, it was more than non-tangible. It was me getting in my own way of actually launching the business. I was struggling to start because I couldn't come up with a business name. So I was putting it off, and I was trying to find the right one. From there, I had created a website, but I didn't have a logo yet. So I was putting it off, and I had to get out of my own way and just put it out there. And those things weren't the important things. It was my skills that was going to create growth for myself. So once I shifted my mindset around those types of things, then I was able to actually start getting clients. And another thing that I ran into was I really struggled with telling people what I was doing. And word of mouth was so important for all businesses, but mine especially, because everybody knows somebody that's a business owner that needs some kind of social media marketing help. And I was nervous to tell people what I was doing, family and friends. And I just was trying to do this on my own. And even obviously I know the importance of posting on social media, but I didn't want to do it because I didn't want people to see. And I was worried about what the random person from college was going to think about what I was doing. And once I did that, I was getting referrals left and right. And so I really regret not doing that sooner.
Yeah, I think that, so we did a study on rural youth entrepreneurship and the mindset in West Virginia, and the number one barrier was fear of failure. They didn't want their friends, they didn't want to be embarrassed in front of their friends and family. And I think that when I talk to entrepreneurs all over the country, and that is a huge, the intangible are just as big as the tangible barriers, and feeling that. Jesseph, do you have any thoughts around that, or fears, or any other of the things that could stand in the way, or how you fought those?
Yeah. The fear that Chrissy mentioned is real. I know it's something that people existed, but with me, I believed in my planning. I believed in my abilities, and I believed in my talents. And I know this may be something we'll get to later in the program, but I established Spectacular Vernacular offline before it emerged online. So there wasn't this I'm putting it out here to these strangers or to these random people. I wonder if they receive me. No, I was networking, and I was talking about Spectacular Vernacular organically to people I know, to people, that I meet in tangible life, before I even had a website that existed, So this was something that I was, again, very meticulously building slowly, building methodically, building organically. And it was like a baby step, kind of like a snowball effect that builds, once you have your brand identity, and then, you work on the next thing and the next thing. And as each element came to fruition, it really grew my confidence and my belief in what Spectacular Vernacular could be. So for me, it was baby steps after baby steps after baby steps. And by the time, you take all those steps, you have something that you feel good about and that you're confident in, and you're ready to show it to the people. So for me, again, it was building it slowly that allowed that confidence to build over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were building your brand and your visioning, and how did you decide what color are we going to use? What's the name of my business going to be? Was it just spaghetti on the wall? We just throw in ideas and see what sticks? Like, what did you do?
Is that a question for me?
Yes, Jesseph, if you want to continue. Yeah.
Yes. So back in spring 2021, as I mentioned, I took myself to lunch one day. And I took a notepad with me. And I sat down and I filled up 2 full pages of a brain dump. I mean, just because I knew I had something in me, I just needed to get everything out. So I filled up 2 pages with, as I mentioned a while ago, about these passions. And for me, I love language and communication and words, and I'm into poetry and just really looking at language and communication as an art. So I just did this brain dump. And among those words and ideas that I wrote down, Spectacular Vernacular was one of about 8 or 9 titles that appeared on that page. And I actually ran that list by a few confidants, and a few picked some other things, but a few picked Spectacular Vernacular. But for me, that was the phrase that resonated. I felt that it spoke to me. I felt that it embodied who I am. I felt that it embodied what it is that I do, what I'm passionate about. And I love the color blue. When I was working with a graphic designer, so I worked with a very, very, very talented graphic designer, and we built my brand identity over the course of months. I mean, this was an elaborate, detailed process that really involved like psychology and sociology. He had a very extensive questionnaire for me that I really sought out to gauge the personality of spectacular vernacular and my own personality. And through that, it was the rich blue and it was the gold that really prevailed as that combination in terms of the brand identity colors. And again, I was very fortunate to have worked with someone who was skilled in brand identity creation from a marketing standpoint. And for me, it was having that as that foundation, and all the other creative elements were able to come seamlessly after that.
Yeah, no, I love that story. That's great. And sitting down at the coffee shop and just getting to work. Chrissy, did you have a similar experience or different?
So mine was very different. As I said, whenever I got started, COVID hit. The plans that I had thought the route I was taking ended up not being the route that I'm on now. Has definitely not been a linear process for me at all. And because I struggled with the business name, the logo, all of that, I decided that I didn't want and I work by myself too. So that's the other thing. So I wanted to grow my personal brand versus the business brand. So that way, whenever something happens and I do need to pivot again, I am prepared that it's my face that people see and it's not a logo or a color and they think of me. It's my face. And so that way, if in the future, if I want to take the consulting route and work, whatever I end up wanting to do with this, I am prepared and I don't have to go through a whole rebrand, and it's just me, my face, I am my brand, and it's my skills that I'm selling, and that's that.
Yeah, absolutely. Way to embrace it. Yes. So let's see, Ryan Wagner, let's go to the chat really quick because we're on the same wavelength, Ryan. Your question was, as you're thinking through the launch of your business offerings, how did your education help eliminate some of these fears, or how did it impact your overall vision for your launch? Which my next question was going to be, how did the IMC program help you prepare and assist you for self-employment? So Chrissy, do you want to take a stab at that one first? How did the IMC program help you?
Yeah, so I definitely noticed as I was getting started that one of the industries that I worked really closely with was personal trainers. So this is how I got into the route of consulting, because they have the skills of exercising. My skills were social media and marketing as a whole. And so as personal trainers, they couldn't afford to pay what an agency would be charging and what I needed to charge them in order to make a living. So I took the route of the consulting, and I realized that I took it for granted that my business is what I studied. And I learned how to tie all the marketing aspects together in order to achieve an objective. So from social media to landing pages to email marketing to getting that lead gen out there and the lead magnet and all of that. And it really helped tie it all together. So that's how it helped me, where I was able to learn that and then teach others and help them with that. I was lucky that is my business. And, but I mean, it could definitely help if you are a store or a retail business or whatever it may be. But it is getting your name out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Jessup, you have any other thoughts around that?
Yes. As I mentioned, I began the program in early 2020. So a little more insight into my background. As I mentioned, educationally and professionally, newspaper journalism is what I initially did. And then I shifted over to marketing and public relations. So I was in the marketing and PR space professionally for 6 years prior to starting the program. And although I was in it, I still desired to really acquire that foundational knowledge and science behind all of these disciplines I was now engaged with. So with that said, as I started this program in 2020, I can say this honestly, by the time I was in my midway through my second course, which was actually the research course, I felt the confidence at that point. I was like, you know what? I think I might could step out and do my own thing, because those knowledge gaps were already being filled in just one course and a half. And for me, the program readied my mind. It really shaped the way I think about marketing, the way I approach it, the way I can assess something in terms of audience segmentation and establishing target audiences. I think about the fact that, again, writing communications plans was something that I was doing and something that I was immersed in. But, when you go through the IMC program, I mean, it is comprehensive from start to end, and you're working with real life clients. So it's just a real life application, which is a theme that carries throughout the program that, again, emboldened me with more confidence. And also, even things like understanding the difference between marketing and public relations. Those are things that words and phrases that people use interchangeably, but we know that they are different. Marketing is talking about potential clientele and audiences, whereas public relations is about your relationships that you build and maintain with various publics. Now, those groups can often overlap, but principally they're different, two different things. So for me, truly gaining an understanding of that was just another example of principally what I took from the IMC program. And then also things like branding and understanding consumer attitudes and behaviors. There's a lot of psychology involved when it comes to marketing. So overall, just being fully immersed in this program, it just equipped me with these tools and with that, as I mentioned, that foundational knowledge that I sought, that I was like, yeah, you know what, I can step out here and do my own thing. It really gave me that confidence to march forward.
Yeah, I love it. So it really sounds like the IMC program has been pivotal in helping you guys start and grow your businesses. So I love that. Love to hear it. I'm also loving all of the chat comments coming through. So please keep them coming. So we have a question from Wesley. What is something that you now know, or what is something you know now about starting your own business that you wish you would have known before you launched? So Chrissy, let's start with you on that question.
So I had this dream of starting my business for years, and I put it off because, like I mentioned before, the fear. And one of the things that I was scared of was job security. And I realize now that having that 9-to-5 job, there's no more security there than working for yourself. You are an at-will employee. Like the company can fire you at any point and you are back at zero. So that would be the first thing. And the second thing I would say is to have confidence in yourself. I clearly lacked confidence in myself. And the more I talked about it out loud, the more I got clients. And that was one of the things too. And one more thing would be not to work for free for your family and friends. You want the clients, you want the experience, and you think you're doing them a favor by working for free. But if they value you and they want your business to grow, they won't expect you to do it for free. You can give them a discount if you want, but don't work for free because your time is valuable. And I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, your time is valuable, and we really appreciate you both being here today. Joseph, any thoughts on your side?
Yes, that when you are devising your beautiful grand plan, know that everything will not go 100% as planned. Now, continue to plan, as someone can always be planning, as I saw in the chat, but know that things are, stars are not going to align 100% the way you want them to. For instance, when I was preparing to launch Spectacular Vernacular, I had, these goals of, I wanted X number of client communication plans ironed out, and I wanted X number of social media campaigns ready to go, and these lofty plans, and all of that did not come to fruition exactly the way I envisioned, all at the same time. But stepping back and assessing, I realized I had enough to go ahead and, launch this thing, that everything doesn't have to be 100% buttoned up, but just as long as you have that business plan and you have that vision that guides you and drives you, you can fill in the gaps as you go along, so plan, but also know that you have to be flexible because things happen, people you partner with, schedules, just life happens, so it's not going to be 100% aligned with what you imagine, but don't let that rattle you. Again, just know that you have an overall vision and a plan that you're working with, and that you can navigate and fill in those gaps as you move along.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such an important point to take away here. And I think that that really relates to Stephen's next question in the chat, along the lines of the business plan. So Stephen says, how have you used data to grow your own business and accelerate growth to improve outcomes? So Chrissy, maybe let's hear your thoughts on data.
Yeah, I mean, I am constantly pulling reports, especially for social media aspect, but pulling reports, looking at analytics, seeing what worked, what didn't, obviously doing more of what's working. And just let's Justin, what do you have to say about that? I don't
Data honestly can be a gift and a curse sometimes. I'm going to share a gift and I'm going to share a curse. How about that? So a gift, I can go back to the infancy of my company. When I was thinking about what I wanted Spectacular Vernacular to look like, I did research. There are so many marketing companies and agencies out here, PR firms. I mean, the market is flooded with them, right? So I said, okay, how can I stand out? And something that I learned from Audience Insights is that people wanted to feel connections. People wanted to feel as if there was a personal tie to the entity they're working with. And when I did my research, I realized that you had a lot of firms that were either so large that they lost that human element about them, or you have some of these smaller boutique marketing firms, and there wasn't personality there, that you would go on some websites and you wouldn't even see a face, that it looked very sterile. It looked very mechanical. So I said, okay, I am going to make myself a flagrant part of the branding for Spectacular Vernacular. When you see SV, you see Joseph Williams. And when you see Joseph Williams, you see SV. So I wanted to be this flagrant flag bearer of the brand. And in turn, that is representative of the personal aspect I talk about with the storytelling, that I want you to know me, to get to know me, to understand that there is a person, that there's soul behind this that's driving this, that this isn't just a whole bunch of marketing speak, but no, we're really making a human connection. Now I have an example of how data can really be a detriment. In this world of social media, which I'm sure Chrissy can speak in depth about, these algorithms, man, these algorithms are gangster. I mean, they are gangster. And I think that whether you're a marketer or you work in some other profession, it can be frustrating thinking that, oh, you know what, I spent 2 hours putting this reel together. This thing is going to go viral. You put it out there and it gets 2 likes because it was only seen by 12 people. Like, these algorithms are so repressive that I think sometimes when you're looking at that data, it can be discouraging. Like, oh man, I thought if I posted at 9 a.m. that I was going to yield this, and but what if I attach a popular song to this one? Or you can just rack your brain trying to crack the code and figure out what is it that's going to break through. But honestly, these social media platforms are a business. So you may want to either have to invest or partner with someone like Chrissy, who is versed in that, to be able to break through. So I think sometimes, all that to say, the data that manifests from that can be dismal, but I think it's just kind of the nature of the game out here these days, and you can't let that discourage you.
Yeah. Along the lines of what we're talking about with data and algorithms and technology, are you guys using ChatGPT? And if so, do you find it helpful or is it hurtful? Because I've heard, sometimes you get people when they're trying to bootstrap a business and they know nothing. They don't have an IMC degree. They don't know anything about marketing or communications. And all of a sudden they're an expert in everything, right? They're using ChatGPT to give them the answers instead of talking to subject matter experts like yourself. So how are you using ChatGPT in your own businesses? And are you seeing it that is something that's helpful or hurtful right now? Christy, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I'm definitely using it, but at the same time, you have to remember it is artificial. So there is not that human aspect to connect with your audience or your clients. And so you have to use it sparingly, and you have to make edits to what it's producing. You can't just copy and paste whatever it's telling you. And so that's, I mean, personally in my business as well, I'm using it to write content and write copy for social posts, and asking it, I'm writing a lot about articles, asking it to help me summarize this article, and it saves a ton of time, but you have to know how to use it.
Joseph, any thoughts on ChatGPT?
Breaking news. I have never used ChatGPT in my life. I believe that for me and for my business and brand, I believe it runs counter to all that it is I stand for when I talk about the personalization and the human interest. And honestly, I have a lot of skepticism about this whole AI movement. I think there are some nefarious actors behind a lot of this. I just have a lot of skepticism, and I just have some greater concern about us as a people and as a society handing over everything to robots. I mean, we've seen this depicted in movies. I don't think it ends well. Now, I don't know if this is, me sounding like the old grumpy man, but I just continue to value authentic, real life interaction, and clientele that I've worked with and engaged with so far want that and seek that out too. So I think something with SV, my company, is that it's that human element that runs counter to the ChatGPT phenomenon. And again, I know I'm gonna, stay abreast of what's going on, be educated on emerging trends, but philosophically and principally, spectacular vernacular does not leverage artificial intelligence to that degree.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a question in the chat here from Emily. She says, do you think using ChatGPT as a tool and knowing how to use it is a skill? Does it hurt the originality of the article being written? And then she says, obviously not asking ChatGPT to write the article, but pulling key points, rewriting sentences, etc. Christy, do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, it is absolutely a skill. I've talked to people who are just getting started using it, and they're like, it's not helpful to me. Well, you have to know how to get it to understand your business and how to get it to work for you, just like any tool out there or any platform that you're using. You have to know how to use it. So it is definitely a skill. And I do think, as I said, it is artificial. So you have to go in and make tweaks, but you can definitely use it as a starting point. I mean, I do definitely. And I know a lot of other marketers that do as well.
Yeah. To pivot a little bit away from the ChatGPT, ChatGPT can't get in your mind and make the decision for you about when and how you're going to start a business or what that business is going to be. So I'd love to hear from each of you, maybe some advice for someone that's thinking, maybe they're sitting right here and they're thinking, man, I'm so close. Maybe I'm getting ready to dabble in self-employment. Do you have any thoughts around a minimum viable product? Should they do a side hustle, or should they say, screw it, I'm jumping in, let's do it? Joseph, what did you do? What's your experience?
Yes. So I began building spectacular vernacular while I was still working for the University of Florida's Academic Health Center, UF Health, Jacksonville. I was still working there. And for me, I knew it was going to be a long game. Truthfully, I didn't know exactly how long this would take. And honestly, it took a little longer than I thought it would take to launch. So that's always something to keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, that you have those barriers to entry, and those barriers are real, whether it's financial, time, the human resources. But I would say have that plan, as you mentioned, have that written business plan, that is going to be your foundation that drives you. And also some advice is to take care of the business of your business first. I was prudent regarding that, and I was meticulous in making sure that I had my LLC taken care of with the state, that I had my federal IRS employer identification number. I claimed I owned 5 or 6 website domains. And again, this is all things I did in May of 2021. Your federal trademarks, I have, and I don't know if folks have gone through the trademark process, but it's a years long process from start to finish. And I have 4 or 5 federal trademarks in various stages, but those were all things that I made sure I had buttoned up and in the queue, as they say, before I even linked with a graphic designer. It was taking, it's the unsexy things that you have to do, again, to make sure you're establishing that foundation. And honestly, all of those things I just named, you can do them by yourself. You don't have to have an attorney. The LLC, the IRS, the domain, the trademarks, they make all of that stuff easy to absorb. You just have to be willing to read and be willing to follow instructions and directions, but you can do it all yourself. It takes time, but I would say, lay that foundation, and then again, just think about how can you separate yourself from the field, and going back to that passion, make sure that you are steeped in something that you're incredibly passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chrissy, do you have any thoughts around side hustling, jumping straight in? What did you do?
Yeah, so I started, as I was working my 9 to 5, I started here and there just picking up a client on what was Fiverr or whatever those other freelancing sites are, using some of those and getting clients that way. But I realized I just didn't have the time outside my 9 to 5. But I also don't think you should let little things like having a website or you didn't start your Instagram yet. Like, don't let things like that hold you back, because those things will come later. And that's definitely not going to stop you from getting clients. To be honest, I mean, I started my website, I launched it, published it, everything was good. And for the first month, maybe, nobody went to the website. So that part wasn't important. Nobody knew who I was yet. So that stuff should not hold you back from taking the plunge and jumping in.
Yeah, certainly. So as you mentioned earlier, Chrissy, your time is valuable. Everyone's time is very valuable right now. So is there anything that we as a group can help you with? Are you guys looking to hire anyone, clients that we can send your way to help you? So Joseph, is there anything that we can help you with today? Because we want to say thank you for being here and giving your time.
Yes, and thank you for allowing us to be here and for having this platform. And thank you for that question. I would say the biggest thing is for everybody to right now either go to your phone or jot down svwords.com. You may see the website in my background there. I got a QR code that takes you directly to our website, svwords.com. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I would just truly appreciate the following and the engagement on social media. We have a lot of engaging and informative and entertaining content out there. So engagement does wonders, again, to combat those algorithms, man. Those algorithms are a beast, man. So, just engagement, and just know that as you browse our website, you will discover an array of services available to you. And we would love to work and partner with you. And also something I meant to mention is that Spectacular Vernacular also provides coaching, whether it's on writing mechanics. Public speaking is a huge focus and emphasis. It's something I'm passionate about. So if you have anyone who is wanting to grow their skills as a public speaker, we are more than glad to devise a personalized program to work with them. Personal branding into personal engagement. We step into some emotional intelligence. So, depending on how deep you want to go with it, we can work with you to allow you to enhance the way you show up and present in personal and professional settings.
Excellent. I love it. I'm on your website right now. Chrissy, anything that we can do to help you?
Yeah, of course. I'm always accepting new clients. My website is socialchrissy.com. My email is socialchrissy@gmail.com, and my Instagram is @socialchrissy. Just hit me up.
Okay, and let's go to questions in the chat. All right, Rita, question 1. How did you decide on price points for your services? Common questions from my students and clients. What mistakes did you make with this element of the business as you were just starting out? So, Chrissy, maybe let's start with you. How did you decide on price points?
Yeah, I did a lot of research. I joined a lot of Facebook groups that other freelancers were in, who talked about their services and helping each other price them, who found people who were comparable to my level of experience, the same types of services that I was offering, and just kind of went from there. Also, it depends on your clientele. And so it was kind of a trial and error type thing for me. Definitely started by underpricing myself. And as I grew, I learned, okay, I can't survive like this. I need to charge more per client or per retainer, whatever it was. So yeah, just do your research and talk to other people about it. And then what was the second question? I'm sorry.
So there was part 1 and part 2. So how did you decide on the price points for your services? And then in parentheses, common questions from my students and clients. And then part 2 was, what mistakes did you make with this element of the business as you were just starting out?
Yeah. So as I said, just underpricing myself and not doing enough research. And yeah, just know your value.
Jessup, any thoughts on that? Price points?
Similar to Chrissy, I did extensive research. I honestly spent months researching, again, finding different groups and folks online sharing their testimonial about pricing. And then honestly, really sitting back and truly thinking about what the value of my quality of work is and really assigning prices to that. And again, after months of this, I devised a pricing menu, which since has evolved and is going to continue to evolve, because as I have jumped into certain projects, I'm realizing, ABC takes a little longer than I thought. This is more laborious than I thought. I think I need to tweak the price on this a little bit, or such and such really aligns with a premium skill set that I have. I think I may need to charge a little bit for that. So yeah, so it's kind of it's this organic filling it out. When you launch, you have your prices, but you just and you can tweak and adjust as you move along. But and so the thing about pricing is that there is no how can I say it, like hard fine line of what a price should be. Is really, again, based on what you think you're worth, what the demand is, and again, kind of what the low end, what the high end is, and kind of find yourself fitting somewhere in between.
Absolutely. So here's the second part to Rita's question. How long did it take for you to make or surpass your previous salary at your previous job? Some people / clients I know who are afraid to take the leap are most worried about the financial stability, a consistent income to support their families and lifestyles. And along the lines for this question, I'd like for you to address maybe insurance, because I know I hear this all the time. And whenever I started a company, I didn't realize going into private industry, if you have a small business, that's just not, it's difficult and it can be very expensive. So I'd love your guys' thoughts on that. So the question was, how long did it take for you to make or surpass your previous salary? And then any thoughts on insurance, especially for small businesses. So Chrissy, any thoughts?
Yeah, so it took me, I want to say, about 9 months to get to my previous salary. And that was my goal. I just wanted to replace the salary that I had left of the job that I had left. And then from there, every dollar over that, I was just excited about. And so, and insurance, yes, be sure talk to an attorney, have a CPA, like have the help in place, because I mean, I don't know anything about that kind of stuff. And so I am so thankful for the help that I do have. Insurance is important. All of the legal aspects, very important.
Yeah. Joseph, what about you?
Yeah. So given that I just launched in August fully, I have not surpassed that income yet. But hopefully I can have a story similar to Chrissy, as we are to convene maybe later this year to give an update on things. Yeah, so just starting out, so things are going well, but hopefully that can continue to build. In terms of the insurance, I am the only full-time employee of Spectacular Vernacular, and I have my own individual plan. There are folks that I've partnered with and contracted with and collaborated with, but they aren't employees. So in terms of providing coverage for employees, that's something that I haven't had to step into yet. But again, as far as myself, I'm just insured on a private plan, and it is obviously much more expensive versus when you're with a group with an employer. So that is something that folks out there who are thinking about stepping out, that you want to make sure you budget and plan for that to be able to pay for your own insurance, because that is an expense that you have to have and account for.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of things to think about when starting a business, and I'm just dropping a link in the chat for those who are not aware. I'm the co-chair for the West Virginia Entrepreneurship Ecosystem, and I know how busy you all are, and starting a business is hard and it can be complicated. And there's a lot of resources available, right? I'm also going to drop a link for West Virginia Business Link, and there's over 150 resources in there, those that are specifically designed to help people start and grow businesses in the state of West Virginia. So my question to Chrissy and Joseph, what resource was most valuable to you as you were starting up your new venture? So Joseph.
Wow, I'm trying to think resource. Can you give more context?
So maybe like the Small Business Development Center, or you had a lawyer or a mentor or someone that when you had a question, you were like, hey, I don't know where to find the insurance, or I don't know where to go to get help for this, because I feel like when you open up a business, there are a lot of questions that you just don't know how to answer. So where did you go to find answers?
People that I know personally who are entrepreneurs. I have friends and family members who have started business. So really picking their brain, and I still pick their brain and plan to continue pick their brain. So I would say people that you know in your personal network, whether it's a cousin or a friend or someone you went to school with, talk to them, ask them about the challenges. I have a cousin who lives in Maryland who has 3 businesses, and I pick her brain about scaling your business and what does that look like, and how do you carry on your business philosophy to make sure that it's being carried out by those you employ. Just so many questions I have as I'm continuing to grow and think about scaling. So again, I would say identify folks and reach out to them and ask them if they'd be willing to impart some of their knowledge on you. And I think that would be quite advantageous.
Yeah, so helpful to find folks that have done it before, right? So you don't have to recreate the wheel, and quite frankly, the laws in every state are different. The processes are different in each state. So Chrissy, do you have any thoughts around folks that helped you or resources that helped you get started?
Yeah, just as Joseph said, I mean, friends and family. I had a friend who was starting a business right a couple months earlier than I did, and so she really helped walk me through some stuff. I have an aunt and uncle who own their own business, and they've been great helps towards this. And finding a mentor, and like you said, finding somebody who's successful and is doing what you want to be doing, and talk to them, ask them how they got there. And people love to share the knowledge, and you just got to ask for it.
Yeah, just ask for help. That's a great point. So one more time, how can everyone stay in touch with you? What is your website, your social medias? Chrissy, let's start with you.
Yep. As I said, socialchrissy.com is my website, socialchrissy@gmail, and @socialchrissy on Instagram.
All right, Joseph.
All right. Spectacular Vernacular is on the internet at svwords.com. We also have a presence on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. At Instagram is _SV_marketing. But nonetheless, if you go to svwords.com, scroll to the bottom of that homepage, you'll see the direct link to all of our social platforms. Would love to hear from everyone who was part of today's event. Would love to engage with you and look forward to making new connections. And perhaps we can assist you with any type of communications and marketing needs that you may have.
Excellent. All right. So thank you all for joining us, and a special thanks to Chrissy and Jessup. Be sure to visit integrate.wvu.edu for upcoming sessions, recordings, and previous episodes, and to subscribe to receive updates. So thank you all for being here and your time. We really appreciate your subject matter expertise today. Thanks all.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.